Hello everyone and welcome to our new series, Don't Try This at Home. Well, hopefully you're gonna watch this series at home, but maybe some of the ideas chess-wise that we're gonna share, well, that will be the topic. Well, we're basically going to touch opening-wise, meaning basic mistakes, basic wrongdoings in either openings or openings preparation, everything that surrounds the beginning of the game and going into typical openings, Sicilian, French, you name it, King's Indian. Well, what is right, or maybe mainly more what is not right to do in each one of those. And for introduction, I thought I will go to, well, not a bad opening player. Well, Garry Kasparov, right? I mean, most likely the best opening player in history. We can discuss whether he was the best player or not, but opening wise, it seems that he had a huge lead over others. And we can see, well, where things went really right for him. But I actually want to start with what I think might be Kasparov's worst opening, or worst opening play. Now we can actually touch his match against Kramnik, where he was stubbornly trying to crack the Berlin. But for now, we will start with actually his game against Deep Blue. Kasparov played black. Let's see what we can study from this game. E4. Well, if you have been a little bit in the chess world, if you've been a lot, then no questions. You know that Kasparov has played pretty much one opening. C5 and then Sicilian, either Schwenningen or Najdorf. Yes, sometimes we have seen him playing the Dragon against Anand and Sveshnikov sometimes, but really, C5 is the move. Okay, if it was an ICC bullet game, we might have said it's a mouse slip, but it was played over the board almost 18 years ago, not a mouse slip. Let's see what was Kasparov's idea. Kasparov, I think that when I last looked at this, Kasparov played the Caro-Kann when he was a young kid. So he played it, of course, with the white against Karpov and had some brilliant games, but not with the black side. Okay, this is all theory. Kasparov himself had games with the white pieces here. E6. And now bishop d6 is the main move being played. Why? And what we can study here. H6 might be actually a reasonable move. Might be. It is not a knockout, that white continuation. It's very dangerous for black, but not a knockout. But why to play bishop d6? Let me show you the main theory. Well, this is main theory. And now queen h4 is possible, queen e2. I really like this move for black. I mean, g5, all theory, few games of Karpov with black, many of the world's best players. And queen e2 is another major reply. But then, why not to play immediately h6, sorry. Well, not because of knight e4. Then black actually might really benefit. He can play knight f6 and maybe c5 in one move. The bishop is not even moving. Okay, maybe this is just a very pretty exchange variation, Rubinstein for black. The reason is knight takes e6. Now, let's think together. Did Kasparov know about this move? Probably better than anyone in the world at that time. He played this with white against Karpov. He played this position in one of his main lines. So, what happened? Did he forget about it? No way. Kasparov didn't believe that his opponent, the computer, would sacrifice a piece without absolutely seeing how he can get it back. Basically, that the computer would not give material without immediately getting it back or something very close to that. Don't forget, this is 18 years ago. Computers were not as strong as Houdini, Stockfish, and anything else that is out there, that now there is no doubt those machines are way, way stronger than humans, right? Well, 20 years ago, it was the opposite. So he underestimated or thought that his opponent might not play the best move. Many times I've seen this story. Well, someone is telling me, look, this is a super interesting line. If my opponent doesn't play this continuation, he will get in trouble. And I always tell them, that's not a bad approach if you're playing poker. Well, the opponent doesn't know what you have in your hand. You can bluff, you can this. I am personally not a believer of bluffing in chess. I think we should play absolutely the best possible that we know and that we think. This is the big do not do that I can, advocate and preach, if I can use that word. Well, of course, against any human, Kasparov would not play this. I'm almost certain. Well, he never played c6 after and so on. But he didn't think the computer will take. Do you want to see how the game finished? Well, I mean, there is some theory, and actually, if you let the computer think a lot, it will show black might be alright. But I think Kasparov was just totally in shock. I've never seen in any game Kasparov gets beaten that way. Not because he's a bad player, not because he was out-prepared. He just didn't believe his opponent will play one move. That is the main move. And here he resigned. Okay, no big point discussing that white attack is just completely crushing. I mean, okay, black cannot defend this way. And the material is practically equal. The game is beyond finished. So, do not assume or think that your opponent cannot play a move that you think is strong. Believe that anything that you know that is right or wrong about the position, your opponent knows as well. And this was okay. This was the first part, and Kasparov was on the other side. As I mentioned, pretty much in most games, well, in opening-wise, Kasparov was absolutely on the right side. Let's see a few different examples, and we will start discussing openings specifically in our next video. First example, Kasparov against Petrosian. And before Kasparov became world champion in 1982, one of his last tournaments. Okay, we know Petrosian is a very solid player, one of the greatest defenders, Kasparov one of the greatest attackers in chess. But let's see what happened here, and I will go quite quickly for the moment I want to share. Okay, by the way, Kasparov himself became a huge fan of the Petrosian system, a3, not to allow bishop b4. Well, not in this game. Okay, they are playing the Bogo Indian, but it looks very similar to the Catalan. Now, one of the big do not in the Catalan, pretty much the biggest one is, do not allow white to get full play on the long diagonal, h1, a8. Once white has a full play on this long diagonal, okay, black has to figure out what he has in return for that. Very simple, very principle. Now let's go and see a few moves in this game. We know that actually c6 in some lines is a popular choice, well, blocking the diagonal, but right now we are not going to discuss theory. There were some games quite close to that. Kramnik against Carlsen. Black did better than this one. Let's stop in a minute. Okay, so this is move 14. And you look at this position and, okay, what happened here? It is not a Sicilian. There is no checkmate. But we have Petrosian, one of the greatest solid players in history, the greatest defenders in history. He doesn't need to hear from me how to play this position. But yet, in this position, I can use his not very pretty example and share it with you. Black is probably, I'm not so comfortable saying lost, but I think it's on the verge of being lost. Yes, it's a Catalan position, and white got everything and for free. We see some positions like this that white gets this position for a pawn. White is paying something. White has the bishop for free. Look at black's bishop. If we swap bishops here, it's equal. It's equal. Okay, let me let play those funny moves. White better here? I don't think so. I don't think. Well, symbol. That's equal. That's draw. But when you allow this long diagonal bishop, well, just in my head, Anand Topalov in the match were a little bit similar stories. Well, okay, it was a pawn sacrifice and constant pressure. Of course, nothing to consider. Even if this was winning a pawn, I don't think white would consider it, but it's not even. Okay. Yeah, look at black's beautiful development. We can go ahead. Pretty sad, right? I mean, how black needs to play in this position. Knight d5, or how is he playing? Knight d5. I will get a straight arrow one day. Okay, and back. Ouch. Okay, this game is not gonna last for long. Okay, e4 is basically trading something for something. Trading the long diagonal for the control of the d5 square. Black is out of play. Okay. Black is out of play. White just keeps improving move by move. Unbelievable. Okay, and until, well, some blunder appeared on the board because queen to e8, just resigning. One of worst games I can recall of the very great Tigran Petrosian. It started with a horrible opening, and even great players, not easy for them to recover. Black never got in the game. White got everything he wanted. Okay, the next two games of Kasparov, both of them will touch a bit. Well, before I'm going to say, let's think together. What can go wrong in an opening? Of course, blunder is universal, right? At any given moment, one can blunder. Forgetting to develop is one thing, right? Being behind in development is one thing, quite common. But another very universal thing for many opening is the king. Wrongdoing with the king. Leaving the king in the center for too long. Forgetting that, well, the king needs to go to some safe spot. Let's see two games in that direction. And then, as I mentioned, we will start looking specifically at openings next time. I just thought about this game as a game that, well, Black King seemed to be a bit in trouble. The game was actually not very clear, by the way. It wasn't a clear-cut game, but the idea behind it, I think, is important. Okay, it started many different openings we had here, but it's still the same world of Philidor, Pirits, King's Indian, and some sort of mix of all of those. Okay, h4 considered the best move, and well, Kasparov knows those things. I mean, h5, of course, the g5 square is weak, and the big idea of h4 is, what's the big idea? That now h6 is under attack and not easy for black to castle. So in this position, black got a bit stuck with his king in the center. Well, Spielman tried to solve it with long castle, which, again, the game was clear-cut, crush, but it wasn't that clear. b4 was played by Kasparov. Opposite castles, not wasting half a move. I mean, h4 is a bit worrisome for white, but as we see, Kasparov doesn't think it is too much of a concern at all. And now, okay, we don't need to analyze this very much. I mean, maybe a5 is black's only move, but looks incredibly dangerous for black. And actually, after this move, already really black is probably just lost. I mean, white just has everything aiming at black's king. Combine it with the open b file. It's really bad. Okay, d5 was played. No point to discuss it that much. Game over. So what was the point of this game? And again, not huge analysis. The point was simple. Of course, this is lost. Black got his king stuck in the center. He castled to a questionable spot. I'm not saying it was really bad. I'm saying it was at least questionable because of b4 and big attack. And Kasparov just finished the game on the spot. In the next game, again taken from a theoretical line, black king in many of the lines stays in the center. But sometimes if the king is in the center a bit too long, well, we can see what happened in the game Kasparov-Har-Zvi from 1989, if I'm not mistaken. Tilburg. Yeah, those were some unbelievable results that Kasparov finished those tournaments. I think 12 out of 14 in Tilburg, and then a tournament either after it a bit or before, maybe a bit after in Belgrade. He finished with 9.5 out of 11, like unbelievable score, getting to 2800. And 25 years ago, with all due respect to the players 2800 these days, 25 years ago 2800 was worth even more than 28, 60, 70 that the world champion today has. Okay, but let's see this game. A game against Har-Zvi. A lot of theory. And again, I'm not going to touch and say which move was wrong and so on. I will say this thing, that if you are playing an incredibly complicated sharp line, you better know exactly what you want to do. You cannot, do not, should not play lines without absolutely knowing the theory. By the way, the same as goes for gambits. Many people want to play gambits, but they don't know exactly the theory. The problem, you will find out during the game that you are a pawn down and with zero compensation. Well, in this game situation, Har-Zvi found himself on the other side. By the way, this is all theory. Of course, the other main line is to take. Yeah, and in this position, this is where it's becoming already very questionable for black. Knight b3 is also a possible move. Queen d6 was played. Again, black king is in great danger in the center, but black was relying on the move Queen c7. Okay, if Queen c5, white has the same reply, only there it is even clearer. White is going to play here knight f5. So Har-Zvi played Queen c7 and thinking that, okay, if Queen a3, okay, Queen c5 might be possible, although that's a strong idea for white, but if not, okay, maybe Queen c3. But what is the big danger here? Well, in general, I would say do not leave your king in the center where Kasparov is playing and have queens on the board. By the way, after such game, in the game of Spielman, we understand how genius was Vladimir Kramnik to come with the Berlin. Really shaped chess, exchanging the queens against Kasparov, right? Because this is the move that exploits the most, leave the king in the center. Again, those are general things, not specific for the Vienna or any other opening. King in the center, danger. He has to take, and he's just lost in this position after castle. I mean, rook g8 was maybe the possibility to go, but it's also supposed to be a very dangerous position for black. On purpose, I'm not analyzing it. Castle, rook d3, okay, this is pretty much finished right now. F4, and now this is very pretty. Now the fifth rank is open. Okay. Really, really cool. If queen takes b6, well, this is the problem, right? And the game is over. Okay, that was our short introduction. I could have probably figured out many other different games. I was just in the mood to speak about openings Kasparov, start with his worst opening blunder, at least from practical point of view, from actual moves, and then seeing several games that he won in the opening pretty much before move 20. Either the opponent king was in the center, the opponent king castled into huge danger, or even the game against Petrosian, which was just being won by positional means with the bishop on g2. Alright, after this we will have to start with actual openings and do not do in those openings, but that will be in our next video. Bye bye.